And I just want to ask Rich to kind of explain this overall framework, and then we'll be tying it up.
Thank you. As John mentioned, traditionally TMDLs don't include an implementation plan here. Here's what we're talking about that's going to be different here. A lot of folks say, so what's going to be new here? In addition to trying to take this nutrient budget from large sections of the watershed like the Susquehanna or the western shore of Maryland, the eastern shore of Virginia, we want to bring it a lot closer to home. We've got 78 different little small sections of the bay that are impaired out there. We need to be sure that that nutrient sediment budget's written for those particular pieces as well. So in addition to that nutrient sediment budget, we're going to be looking at a series of other things. We're asking our jurisdictional partners to allocate down to the source level, down to individual treatment plants where it's appropriate, down to individual geographies where you've got cropland, where you've got ag land and other issues. We're also going to be building in there, so you've got a current set of programs, you've got a goal that you're going to go out there. We want to include a gap analysis in there. In other words, where there's gaps in funding, where there are gaps in implementation, conservation folks out in the field, the ability to reach out to your urban stormwater efforts. We want them to be able to bring that accountability back into here. We're going to continue with the monitoring and the effectiveness of what we've got. So part of the TMDL larger implementation package would include the tributary strategies themselves. You heard earlier from Jeff Corbin talking about reasonable assurance. We've got to have reasonable assurance that if you're outside of a regulated place, which is industrial, municipal wastewater treatment plants, some selected areas in terms of confined animal feeding operations, and some selected areas in terms of stormwater, we need to be sure that we're going to be assured that those practices, those implementation efforts are going to take place. And if we don't, using the 2-year milestones that the governors, the mayor, the administrator are talking about right now, there's got to be some specific consequences that built on there as well. Oftentimes that's hollow language in other TMDLs out there. We're looking to say, if in fact we don't, it's not like if you had a financial budget out there and you didn't adhere to it, you're going to get yourself in trouble. We've got a budget for the Chesapeake in terms of nutrient reductions. If we start to stray outside that budget, we've got monitoring, we've got effectiveness, we also know where those practices need to be put in place, and if not, we're going to be looking for consequences as well. So again, we're wrapping this TMDL up at a much more smaller scale in terms of what the budget indicates, but with information on effectiveness, in terms of milestones, in terms of accountability, and in terms of gap analysis.
So, just to summarize, we're very committed to doing a model TMDL for the nation here that combines very good allocations of responsibility for pollution reduction to the sources and a very good implementation plan that helps to accelerate implementation in the watershed. And these are the contact folks to stay in touch with. We're using a committee of the Bay program called the Water Quality Steering Committee as a sounding board, as a stakeholder board, to give us continuous feedback on this effort. And we welcome your input all along the way. Again, with December 2010 being our end point. And that's it. BMAT?
Great. We actually have time for a couple of questions, if you have them. Yes?
Recently, EPA has been developing a new methodology to complete TMDLs, sometimes referred to as the weighted evidence approach. Is that approach going to be used to do the Chesapeake Bay TMDL?
Does everyone hear the question?
We think.
Yeah, okay. The gentleman asked that DPA has recently talked about a methodology looking at a weight of evidence across the country. We're fortunate in the Chesapeake that we don't need, quote, a weight of evidence. We think we've got good scientific information about what's coming in from the headwaters up in New York, what's coming in from sewage treatment plants, say, down in Richmond, Virginia, et cetera. So we're going to use essentially 25 years worth of science and information. We've been watching the Chesapeake. We've been looking at BMP implementation out there for 25 years. We feel we've got the information necessary. We're actually on our 4th or 5th generation of environmental models that allow us to look at the different source terms out there. And we feel we've got the scale of information. We can start talking at the county scale. We can start talking to individual municipalities. We can talk about individual treatment plants, individual source sectors like cropland, et cetera. So maybe elsewhere across the country they need, quote, a weight of evidence. We feel that we've got a good, solid scientific basis for establishing this TMDL. The question was, what if you have a mega weather event? If you look over the last 25 years in the Chesapeake, we've had several 100-year storms. I always ask my USGS partners, how can you have a 100-year storm not every 100 years? We've had Hurricanes Agnes. We've had 18 months worth of drought. what we're able to do is, in the modeling systems we look at, we actually have 25 years of worth of history. So we can take a look at what these major hurricanes, depending on that timing of it, if it happens in winter, less impact for the Chesapeake. If it happens in June, like Hurricane Agnes did, we're in trouble. Part of a TMDL indicates you can't just look for fair weather. You actually have to look at critical conditions, a condition that the Chesapeake's going to sort of be strained and still be able to make water quality standards. So we're not looking for 100 or 200-year storms, but the TMDL needs to be written for a 50-year storm, a drought condition, et cetera, and we've got that within our 1985 to current record, and it's part of the decision-making process.
Okay, one final question.
Talking about applying the TMDL's caps to non-point sources, putting it on agriculture, for instance, is there any way to make it sort of mandatory limits, or is it used only to sort of create new targets that you would try to then fund farmers? In other words, you would just give farmers funding to do it, you wouldn't force them to do it.
Right. We're going to have a healthy debate with our state partners and local partners about how to move this program forward from, you know, the boxes that we're in of voluntary and regulatory to some hybrid that's in between that really moves us forward. That a lot of solutions apply in local action, state action. States often can have regulatory programs that aren't federally required, go beyond federal programs. So we first of all need to disaggregate that big agricultural chunk. There are certain portions of the agricultural world that are regulated, such as the animal feeding operations. But in general answer to your question, we're going to be talking about how to raise the bar on accountability in the non-point source world. That's going to be an essential part of this discussion if we're going to be successful.